Hey, what's up? This is Pete Tidwell here, cake artist, flavor wizard, and bakery business expert. Welcome to the Cake is Life YouTube channel. After 12 years of baking and running my business in so many different ways, I'm excited to finally start adding to this YouTube channel and share what I've learned with you. Here you'll find delicious recipes, baking tips, and a little baking therapy, because baking isn't just about creating something tasty, it's about creating moments of joy and connection. And before we dive in, let me introduce you to the heart of what this channel and my brand is all about. Cake. Not just the dessert, but a mantra to live by. Confidence, action, kindness, and energy. Confidence to try new things and trust yourself in and out of the kitchen. Action to take that first step, whether it's baking a cake or chasing your dreams. Kindness for yourself and others, because life's sweeter when we're kind. And energy to keep going, even when the going gets tough. Throughout my videos, you'll hear little affirmations sprinkled in, reminders to believe in yourself, take action, and keep your energy positive. Because here at Cake is Life, we bake more than just cakes. We bake confidence, kindness, and joy. Let's get baking. And remember, cake is life. Welcome to the Cake is Life YouTube channel. Today, we're going to be jumping into some chocolate cake. But this isn't just any chocolate cake. This is a 2-time Food Network Cake Wars winning flavor that never fails to blow people away. Today, I'm sharing my chocolate brownie cake with vanilla Italian buttercream, as well as my coconut peanut butter Italian buttercream. The same cakes that made the judges fall in love, and it's about to become your new favorite too.
A chocolate brownie pound cake with a vanilla Italian buttercream.
This is a brownie cake if I've ever had one. Your chocolate cake is so rich and dense and decadent. Your vanilla buttercream has strong, silky vanilla flavor that it absolutely works.
The problem with your cake is that it's gonna keep me playing all night. It's packed with such chocolate flavor and intensity that it's impossible to have only one bite.
The winner of Cake Wars and $10,000 is Pete. Congratulations, you're the winner of this cake war.
It was amazing.
You hadn't told me there was coconut in the buttercream because it was such a great surprise. The chocolate cake itself was firm, but it was very, very moist.
Flavor of his cake, that peanut butter coconut combo with the chocolate was just unique and flavorful. That coconut just kind of elevated a chocolate peanut butter cake to the next level.
Jason and Pete, you both gave us cakes that were dramatic. You both gave us flavors that were delicious, but only one of you can win.
Pete has a very visual Power Ranger cake. I don't know what to think.
My heart is beating like crazy. He has some impeccable detail. I am feeling very nervous.
In a close round, there was one of you who better captured the motto of the Power Rangers, that together, we are more. And that baker is Pete. Congratulations, you're the winner of Cake Wars.
This is incredible. When he said my name, it took me by surprise.
Good job, you guys.
Congrats.
And to win Cake Wars 2 different times is mind-blowing.
All right, let's talk flavors. Today, we're making my chocolate brownie cake with 2 buttercream options. The classic vanilla Italian buttercream and a unique coconut peanut butter Italian buttercream. Trust me, both are showstoppers. All right, before you begin, gather your tools and equipment that you'll need for this recipe. Feel free to pause this or look down below in the description for this list. Before we dive into the ingredients and recipe, let's talk about mise en place, a French culinary term that means everything in its place. This is the secret to stress-free baking. When you have all your ingredients measured, prepped, and ready to go, the baking process becomes smoother and more enjoyable. All right, now for the ingredients. This is the list of the ingredients that you are going to need to accomplish the chocolate brownie cake portion of this recipe. Feel free to pause this or check out the recipe down in the description and start gathering together your ingredients, and then we'll jump right into the recipe. All right, let's jump right in. First, start by adding your dry ingredients to your mixing bowl. All-purpose flour, cocoa powder, granulated sugar, baking powder, baking soda, and your salt. You're gonna give this a light mix, and then we're going to add cubed butter into it. We're doing a method that is called reverse creaming, and this is where instead of creaming the butter and the sugars together first, you add all the dry ingredients and then cut your butter into it, similar to what you would do like in biscuits, for instance. And the reason why we're doing this is because I feel like for this cake recipe, because it's a brownie cake, it needs to be done this way so that it's a little bit more dense and the crumb is a little bit more on the dense, rich side. And you can do this cake recipe the other way too. You can cream it like normal, and the baking, the end result, it's very, very similar. You'll notice when we're mixing this together, it's a very sand-like texture, and you want it to be in the sandy texture that the butter is cut into it before you add your buttermilk into it, and before you add your eggs into it, and before you add your vanilla into it, because you want all the butter essentially to be broken down into very small particles so that the mixture of your cake batter emulsifies together the way that you want it to. I added all my liquid ingredients to my dry ingredients. Remember to scrape the side of the bowl. Classic thing in any baking recipe, but just make sure you get all the bottoms, all the sides, and make sure you scraping all those little pieces so that you can get all the right ingredients mixed in and you don't have any chunks of butter or chunks of dry ingredients stuck at the bottom of your bowl. You'll notice with cake batter, you want a nice texture that has kind of almost like a ribbon kind of look to it when you're pouring it into the pan. Now that your cake batter is done, it's now time to prepare your cake pans. Get some parchment paper, and you're going to want to trace the shape of whatever pan you are baking your cake in. Then you're going to want to cut out each of the shapes, which are going to go into the bottom of the pans. Before you put those into the bottom of the pans, you're going to need to grease the edges of your cake pan using either butter or shortening or your favorite pan spray. And then, as a tip for chocolate cake, use cocoa powder and cover the outside of the rim of the cake pan. The reason why you want to do cocoa powder and not flour is you don't want the flour to show up on the side of your chocolate cake. If you're doing a vanilla cake, I would suggest doing all-purpose flour instead. And remember, every great cake starts with a mess. Don't be afraid of the process. Now that you have that done, place your parchment paper circles or whatever shape they are in the bottom of the pan, and now they're ready for you to pour your cake batter into the pans. Now, make it so they're filled about halfway or just under half, because they will rise as they bake. And remember, you're capable of more than you know. Just like this cake, you rise beautifully under pressure. And now it's time to bake the cakes. Let's get them in the oven. Place the cakes into a preheated oven at 325 degrees Fahrenheit. Time to let these cakes bake. Let's watch them rise. Bake time is going to be 25 to 40 minutes, and bake time will vary depending on the size of the pan and your oven. After taking out of the oven, let cool at room temperature for 60 minutes, and then place in freezer for 4 to 8 hours or overnight so that you can use in your recipe at a later point. When you're ready to use in your recipe, take out of the fridge or freezer and use as directed in the dish that you are creating. All right, now it's time to trim these cakes and get them stacked. And you'll notice mine are a little bit frozen. Remember to take them out of the freezer just a touch before I did. You don't have to trim them quite as much as I am either, but I just wanted to show you an example of what it looks like when it's a little bit on the frozen side. It's a little bit tougher to cut through it. This is a very important part. Remember to save your cake scraps, because cake scraps make delicious snacks while you're making your cake. And of course, don't forget cake tacos, where you get a little piece of cake, put some frosting in it, fold it up like a taco, and it's delicious. And now, time to celebrate your cake and do a little bit of dancing, and ready to wrap it up, put it in the freezer, and on to the next step. All right, you're going to want to wrap your cake layers in plastic wrap, at least a couple layers of plastic wrap, just to make sure that it is protected before it goes into your freezer. Do that with each layer, and then we're going to place them in the freezer. Store your trimmed and wrapped cakes in the freezer. Yes, you can freeze the cake in advance. However, be mindful of freezer odors. Even in a clean freezer, cakes wrapped with multiple layers can still pick up unwanted tastes over time. It's a good idea to test it out beforehand to ensure your cake doesn't have any freezer aftertaste issues. When you're ready to use it in a recipe, take it out of the fridge or the freezer and use as directed in the dish that you are creating. Now it's time for our vanilla Italian buttercream recipe, a must-have recipe in every baker's tool belt. Before we dive in, let's talk mise en place, French for everything in its place. Taking a few minutes to measure and prep makes baking smoother, less stressful, and way more fun. And it's a life lesson too. A little preparation creates space for creativity, confidence, and calm in the kitchen and in life. All right, let's get to it. All right, let's first look at the ingredient list and the instructions for this recipe, also included in the description in this video. Now that you have your ingredients gathered, it's now time to start on our recipe. All right, we'll begin by pouring our 300 milliliters of egg whites into the mixer bowl. Then we will be adding our 600 grams of granulated sugar to 300 milliliters of water, which will go in a saucepan and then on the burner. Place pan on high heat, and we're going to boil that until it reaches 240 degrees Fahrenheit. The use of a sugar thermometer will aid you in this very well. If you don't have a sugar thermometer, please pay attention to my videos in a couple minutes on what the sugar should look like. And remember, don't start beating the egg whites until bubbles form in sugar water on the stove. This is so your beaten mixture doesn't sit for too long before adding the sugar syrup. Now that your sugar syrup is starting to boil, you can start beating your egg whites. Now first, before adding the sugar, you're going to want to put this on high and make sure you form bubbles. You want to make sure you form a good meringue that's going to be solid for being able to make the Italian buttercream. You're going to be adding the sugar in 3 different additions, and this will help form your Italian meringue before we pour the sugar syrup into it. Now remember, kindness is like buttercream. It makes everything better. Now you're going to continue to mix this on high until you get to medium to stiff peaks in your egg whites. And then you can set that aside just for a second until your sugar syrup is at the right temperature, 240 degrees, and then we will pour it into our beaten egg whites and sugar. Looks amazing. Set that aside and let's go check on our sugar syrup. The sugar syrup will slowly thicken as it gets hotter. You'll notice the bubbles are moving pretty quick, but as these videos go on, you will notice that the sugar syrup gets thicker and thicker, and the bubbles start moving just a little bit slower and forming. And you'll notice in this final video, and this is where it's at 240 degrees and ready to pour into our egg whites. All right, so you're gonna take your sugar syrup and you're gonna pour it into your egg white and sugar mixture in your mixer. Now you're going to increase the speed after pouring it in, and you're gonna mix this for probably 5 to 10 minutes until it is thick and glossy and not hot anymore. Start by adding the butter in when your mixer is at very low speed, and start adding in your cubes of butter. So go ahead and add your whole 2 pounds of butter in. And then after you add all the butter in, we're just gonna let this mix for a few minutes, let the butter melt a little bit with the room temperature mixture. Continue mixing until all the butter has been incorporated into the mixture. You will know this when there are no more chunks of butter inside. You're gonna increase the speed, and you will notice that it will slowly get thicker and thicker, as you can see here. We're gonna stop it. We're gonna add some vanilla to it because that's the flavor we're doing, and we're gonna be doing the coconut peanut butter flavor later. Continue mixing, get all the flavor in there. The most important part, making sure you taste it to make sure it actually tastes good and is what you want it to taste like. This was good, but I felt like it needed some more vanilla in it, so I added just a little bit more. We're gonna continue mixing, and you can see how lovely and silky and smooth and incredible this buttercream looks. And now for another taste. What do we think? Looks like we're doing okay. Looks like we're getting close, We're gonna go ahead and add another teaspoon of vanilla in here to make sure we get a nice, rich vanilla flavor. Continue mixing it together, and we'll go for our third taste. And I think, if we're lucky, we may have made it. All right, when it's all done and the right consistency and the right taste, go ahead and put it in the containers that you will need for your recipe. You did it. Great work. Now you know how to make vanilla Italian buttercream, and you can come back to this recipe anytime you need to in the future. Now that you have access to this amazing, incredible vanilla Italian buttercream recipe here on my YouTube page, thank you so much for watching. Knowing how to make Italian buttercream opens up your dessert world immensely. There are so many things that you can add to Italian buttercream, so be creative. Get out there. Think of what you can add to this to make the most creative, fun flavor with your Italian buttercream. If you end up making this recipe, please reach out to me. Please send me a message, send me a comment. Let me know what flavor you came up with. How did your recipe go? You can also let me know if you have any questions or any parts of these videos that you would like me to go more into detail on, or if you have any specific questions, you can always email me at themightybaker@gmail.com. So now to cover the coconut peanut butter Italian buttercream. Delish and delectable. So for the coconut Italian buttercream, I have the base of it is the vanilla Italian buttercream that we just made, and I added to it about a half cup, well, quarter cup to a half cup of peanut butter. Do it to taste, and then added some coconut extract in there as well, and it tastes, voila, amazing, incredible. Put it into a container and set it aside. Time to frost the cake. You're gonna need some tools and equipment: offset icing spatula, cake turntable, and cake board or plate. Now first we're gonna tack it down with a little bit of buttercream. You're gonna wanna do this to make sure that the cake is attached to the board or plate that you are building it on. If you don't do that, it could possibly slide. Next, you're going to add a thin layer or thick layer, depending on how you want it in your cake. For this purpose, we're just making a very simple stacked cake. I did a small, about half inch, quarter inch layer of frosting in between. Then I'm going to place the top of the cake on, take the parchment paper off. Notice I used the bottom facing up on the top. Make sure it's nice and even. And now I'm going to get my buttercream, and we're doing what is called a crumb coat. So keeping all the crumbs inside and contained so that when you do your outside frosting, it doesn't have a bunch of crumbs in it. So right now you're just focusing on covering all the cake with buttercream. Your energy creates your masterpiece. Stay positive and the results will be sweet. Continue on doing this until you get the whole top of the cake covered and you're ready to go on to the next step. Take action, even if it's a little messy. That's where the magic happens. Now, as we continue frosting this cake, I am covering the outside of this cake with buttercream. I'm not making it super pretty. There's a lot of future videos that I will do when it comes to decorating and how to frost a cake. We're not going to do that today. Now for the time that we've all been waiting for. A baker must make sure that it tastes good, exactly as it should be. So time to sit down and give it a sample. First, we're going to be trying the vanilla Italian buttercream with the chocolate brownie cake. Let's see how it is. Drum roll, please. Oh yeah, it's delicious and incredible. All right, on to the coconut peanut butter buttercream with the chocolate brownie pound cake. And in the mouth it goes. Oh, it's so delicious. You guys, This cake is delicious. Have fun baking it. See you later. And there you have it, a chocolate brownie cake that's guaranteed to impress. If you enjoyed this recipe, be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell, because in the next video, I'll be sharing another one of my all-time favorite cake flavors, along with more baking tips and behind-the-scenes stories from my Cake Wars experiences. Don't forget, the full recipe and instructions are in the description below. Thanks for baking with me today, and remember, cake is life.